It's almost Father's Day in my neck of the woods, so I decided today to make a men's bracelet, something that the kids could make for their dad for Father's Day. Hi, my name's Carol and welcome to my channel. It's lovely to have you here. Let's take a look at what you need to make this bracelet and walk you step by step through the process. Couple of things to note about this bracelet is this one is actually too big for my husband, so I'm going to take off these two beads to make it smaller. So you can change the size of it just by increasing or decreasing the beads at the back here. In terms of supplies, you will need 2 of these Tibetan silver tubes. Now these ones are actually 37mm long, so they are quite large. I've got here a magnetic clasp, and I find magnetic clasps are great for bracelets because then you don't have to fiddle around with one hand trying to do up the clasp. Now I have here 11 of these 8mm lava beads. Now I'm actually going to take 2 away because I'm actually only going to use 9 for my project. I have 14 of these tiny wee Tibetan silver rondelles. They're 5mm by 3. I've got 2 tiny wee crimp beads, and I've got 2 copper crimp covers here. These ones are 3mm. I've also got a piece of tiger tail, about 30 to 40 centimeters is fine, and I have my flush cutters and my chain nose pliers. So let's get started and make this bracelet. The first thing you obviously need to do is measure your man's wrist, and you can do that on the sly somehow, I don't know. But I know that this one is too large, so I'm actually going to move that one out of the way so I have some space to move. Alrighty, so the first thing I'm going to do is untangle my tiger tail here, and I'm going to put the first end of the clasp on. So I need a crimp bead, pop that on. Remember, it's good to put the crimp bead down on your mat and go fishing for it with your tiger tail. Then I'm going to put one end of my clasp on. I'll actually undo that. And I'm going to come back down through the crimp bead. Like that. And just run the crimp bead up towards the clasp. Now I'm going to squeeze my crimp bead with my pliers. Now, being a magnetic clasp, every time I move my pliers close to it, it's going to stick to them. So I'm actually just going to move it, hold it out of the way with my fingers. And I'm just going to push my crimp bead up a little bit further. And squeeze. So that's what I have now. Now the next thing I'm going to do is put on my little crimp cover. And I found this a little challenging with the magnetic clasp, so I did it with my pliers to try and get it in the right place. There we go. So a crimp cover is, when you put it on and you give it a squeeze, it actually looks like another bead. Whoops, it's fallen off and it's stuck. Let's try that again. You can see I've got my crimp cover on. Now what I'm going to do is take my pliers and just give it a gentle squeeze to close it up. Basically, when you've got your crimp cover closed properly, it should look like another bead. That's what I have now. Okay, now I'm just going to trim off a little bit of the end of my tiger tail. Basically what I want it to do is hide the end inside the first bead. So just holding it and cutting it with my flush cutters. Alright, now I'm in my original bracelet. I added 4 lava beads here, so I'm only going to add 3, but I'm going to start with one of the silver rondelles. So there's my silver rondelle and my 3 beads. So silver rondelle, lava bead, silver rondelle, and another lava bead, another silver rondelle. So you can see it's a pretty easy pattern. And just run that down and just make sure that that end goes inside the beads like that. All right, now I'm going to pop on one more silver rondelle. Now I'm going to pop on my tube. I had trouble with getting the tiger tail through the tube. It only wanted to go through from one end. There we go. Nice and easy. Now this middle of the design is actually just a repeat of what we've done. So it's 3 lava beads and 4 of the silver rondelles. So starting with a silver rondelle, okay, so that's what I have now. I've got my 3, my tube and my 3, and I've ended with the silver rondelle again, and now I'm going to put my next tube on. It's pretty easy, this bracelet. As I said, it's a great one for the kids. Starting once again with a silver rondelle. Okay, so there's the entire design laid out. Now all I have to do is put the clasp on the other end. So I'm going to do that by putting on my crimp bead first. Now you notice I do have 2 silver rondelles left, and that's because I reduced the number of lava beads. Okay, on with the clasp. Now this time I'm going back down through the crimp bead. Like that. And now I'm going to go down through a couple of the beads as well. So that's what I have now. And I'm going to pull that tail until everything's nicely closed up. Now if you have problems with this, you can actually grab your chain nose pliers and just pull up the long end a little bit. Oops. Once again, my pliers are sticking to the clasp. Now clearly you don't have to use a magnetic clasp. I just find, especially for men, that it's much easier. Now I've actually got my crimp bead too close because my clasp is not sitting right, so I'm going to move it down a little bit. There we go. So you do need a little bit of a gap. Now just give it a squeeze, and I'm going to trim off my little end here, nice and close with my flush cutters to the bead. And that end will just move, pop inside as the bracelet moves around a little bit. And the last thing to do is put on my crimp cover. Okay, so I've got my crimp bead on there, and I'm going to just give it a squeeze with my pliers. Okay, there you go. And there is one men's bracelet ready for Father's Day. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and maybe you'll make one of these for the man in your life. Now before I go, I'm going to mention my scarf, because everywhere I go and I wear this scarf, people always ask me where I got it from. So my sister made it for me, and I'm going to leave a link to the blog post containing the pattern and where you can get the wool in the description box below, along with the materials that you need to make this bracelet. And I'll also leave links to our Facebook and our Instagram, so check us out there as well, because we often post there and we don't do videos. So leave me a comment and let me know if you made this bracelet, or maybe your kids made it for their dad for Father's Day. Thanks for watching, and have an awesome day.